But they still feel email stress, and they still need help. That's why they're here. That's
They
good.
do.
But now it's evening out. Look at that. 21% are 5,000 or less. But if you add up the percentages, 60% of the people have over 1,000. I mean, if you look at it that way. So this is fascinating. I love this. Thanks so much for sharing, folks. Welcome. So here's what we're going to be doing. It's a typical webinar Wednesday as far as structure goes. We are going to be, I pre-recorded the demo talking about how we overcome email bankruptcy, or how we claim email bankruptcy, which is about a 22-minute video. We'll be rolling that while it's going on. Of course, April and I will be in chat, and we will be here to answer questions. We'll have lots of time for Q&A at the end, because I know there's going to be lots of people offering new suggestions and also asking questions about best practices, etc. Before we get going, though, I have to have a big shout out and thank you to all of our patrons. This Dottotech channel and the Webinar Wednesday is brought to you by the generosity of you, through the generosity of you folks. We have our Patreon account where people who appreciate the fact that each and every week here at Dottotech, we deliver free training and tutorial content. Well, they support us and keep us on the air through Patreon. And there are perks attached. Now, Patreon is like a crowdfunding site. So you go there and you dedicate X number of dollars per month to help us stay on the air. And in return, we give you some perks beyond the fact that we continue to deliver good tutorial content of the sort that we are delivering today. This is our 116th Webinar Wednesday. 117th Webinar Wednesday. I'm losing track. We have almost as many Webinar Wednesdays as people have emails in their inbox. But you have access to all of the replays for each and every of these tutorial webinars as a big part of our perk package. As well, you get half price on all of our online courses, of which we have many, including some great productivity ones, including using Evernote, our Evernote Made Easy course, which we just released about a month ago. So it is, we like to hopefully give you back as much value as you give us, but we appreciate your support, and we would not be on the air without your support. So to all of our patrons, thank you so much. If you're considering supporting Dottotech and you value this sort of content, well, you can pay it forward a little bit by jumping on board and supporting us on Patreon, and we will appreciate you as well. Not that we don't appreciate you, even if you're not a patron. We still appreciate you coming, and we do this for everybody, but we appreciate our patrons with a little extra sauce. That's it, just a little bit extra. So here we are. We have 242 answers.
Can I ask you, how many do you have in your inbox?
Oh, I don't know. I don't have my email open right now, but I have about, when I did it before I cleaned it out, I had about 1,800.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That's pretty bad. I feel bad about that. That was me being out of control. You know what? It doesn't matter. Here's the thing, and this is crucial. The number doesn't matter. If you feel out of control, that's the issue. If you feel that there's stuff in there that you have responsibilities for, that you're feeling guilty about, or you're feeling pressure that you should be doing, and you don't have control of your inbox, you are out of control. And it doesn't matter if that number is 400 emails, 4,000, 400,000. At that point there, the number is moot. The issue is a sense of control and a sense of peace that you have from having inbox zero, from having control over your inbox. So we won't judge everybody based on their numbers, although I've got to admit I did a bit of judging by looking at some of your numbers. But
he's judged me for years on my email. Don't let him fool you.
Yeah, and it hasn't done us any good.
Well, it hasn't. But you know what? I have to say, from I'm sure that all these people that have big inboxes, I used to do a lot of presentations and trainings, and I would have, I'd check my email quick, and then sometimes I would forget to minimize it as I was transitioning, and it would stress me out that people would see my inbox. I'd be like, oh my God, somebody's going to see my inbox. They're going to think or when we're doing like a Zoom call and you switch over, I'm like, no one can see the number in my inbox.
Yeah, it's like people dropping by and you've been cooking and you haven't cleaned up your kitchen.
You haven't cleaned your house. Yeah, it's totally like that.
Exactly. So it's the same kind of idea. So today we are going to try and help you with that. So our goal today, at the end of today, is for you to have a strategy in place. To be honest, declaring email bankruptcy is a pretty painless process. Of all of the times that we've taught people overcoming email overload, this is the cleanest and simplest. I don't know if I'll be teaching our old school way of doing it very much anymore in the future. I do like the concept of email bankruptcy. It makes a lot of sense to me for a lot of very basic reasons, which we'll cover in the video. I don't want to steal the thunder from the video, but certainly it's the least painful of the methods that I have gone through. Now, so we're going to play the video here in a minute. Just a reminder that if you do have to jump out, if you do have issues with your internet connection, if life gets in the way, a replay will be sent out tomorrow morning with all of the links that we include here and the replay of this particular video. And that replay is available to you for 48 hours after, so you can have plenty of time to watch it, after which it will be archived for the use of our patrons at Patreon, so they will have permanent access to it. Next week, I know that we're concerned about next week. Next week, we're going to have a slight change in schedule. We will not be doing Webinar Wednesday on Wednesday. We'll be doing Webinar Wednesday on Thursday for reasons which will become evident next Thursday. But there's another event happening that we want to coordinate our timing with. So we're going to just shift Webinar Wednesday to Thursday, which is going to completely mess up my own biorhythms. I know that I'm going to be in terrible shape next week as we go through this all, but we will suffer through it, and we are going to be doing Webinar Wednesday next Thursday. Just a heads up on that. And by the way, the topic is going to be a kind of a peek behind the curtains, how we do all of our online business. We're going to be concentrating on online business a lot in the month of February, and so we're going to give you a little sneak peek of all the back-end mechanisms of how Dotto Tech builds their business and makes money and all of those sorts of things for those of you who might be interested in getting into social business, online business, content marketing, the types of business that we do here, online courses, all of that sort of stuff. So that's going to be next week on Thursday, not Wednesday. So I think we're ready to watch the video. Are you guys ready to get into this, to dive into how does email bankruptcy works? We have about a 22-minute video. At the end of it, we'll be back. But through it all, April and I will be in chat. We will see you on the other side.
Hey guys.
It is time for us one and all to declare email bankruptcy. This is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. This isn't the first time we've tackled the issue of email overload, even here on Webinar Wednesday. And I should let you know, we've got a great mini course called 3 Steps to Inbox Zero, which walks you through another process and another process for reaching inbox zero, which is really going to be our goal as we declare email bankruptcy today. But the cool thing about declaring email bankruptcy, as opposed to going through my entire process of 3 steps to inbox zero, is by declaring email bankruptcy, you get to inbox zero far more quickly. Now, there's some cost to that additional, that speed, but it's like ripping off the Band-Aid, dealing with things very quickly as opposed to a much more laborious process. So let's talk about what email bankruptcy is, and then we will get you through the process of how we get there. So email bankruptcy is just us basically saying that we cannot anymore deal with the volume of email we have in our inbox, and we recognize that we don't have the capacity to go through and pull all of our responsibilities out of that inbox and actually discharge those duties. So instead, we're going to start fresh, hopefully with a new attitude and a new mind that we will stay on top of things in the future. And let's face it, if you are in a situation where you have 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000 email messages in your inbox, the odds of you ever going back through those old messages and finding all of the things that you should be dealing with is, well, it's not going to happen. So in essence, all of those old messages are lost to you anyway. So having them sitting there in your inbox where they create stress and pressure is just not worth it. So we will embark on a process of cleaning out our inbox and reaching inbox zero, and we will do it in the fastest, most efficient way we can. And we will also make a commitment to never getting into this situation again in the future. That is our plan today. So before we begin with what we're going to cover today, let me just quickly have a moment to tell you what inbox zero is, because that's kind of the goal that we are looking for. Inbox zero is the state where we don't have, a lot of people think it means that there's no messages in your inbox. In fact, that's not true. What it is there is no stress in your inbox, or no extra stress. And that stress comes from an inbox which is too full and you can't take control of. It's a visual thing, believe it or not. Inbox zero is having white space at the bottom of your email when you look at it, meaning that there's nothing beneath the horizon. There's no responsibilities lurking there that you have to struggle to remember, or that create kind of an unreasonable fear and concern. It all comes from the fact that with our email, when we have responsibilities that slip below the horizon, so you can't see them anymore, your body or your mind tries to keep track of those for you because it can't see them. It says, wait a minute, Steve, you've got something down there that's important, and I'm going to remember that. And it does that through reminding you, and that is a kind of a cycle of generating stress. So the more important messages that have slipped from your visual field, the more your brain tries to take over and the more stress it creates. So if we can have all of our important messages in our inbox when we look at it, and we know we can see them all because there's white space at the bottom, that reduces the amount of stress. Even if you have a lot of work in your inbox, you're not worried. There's nothing lurking beneath the horizon that's going to jump up and bite you in the ass. So for us, the goal of Inbox Zero is to have white space at the bottom of your inbox every night before you go home. Now, it's folly to think that there'll still be white space in the morning because new messages will come in overnight. But when you go home at night, you don't want to have a bunch of messages kind of haunting you. And if you often wake up at night saying, I have to remember to do this, I have to remember to do that, a lot of that stress comes as a result of us not being in control of our communications environment, of our inbox. So it's a boon for those of us who can reach the point where we have Inbox Zero and we always have control over our inbox. So how are we going to achieve that today? How are we going to go through the process? Here are the steps. The first step is we're going to set a date or a deadline. I'll explain more on that in a moment. That's going to be what we're willing to take responsibility for up to that certain point. And it can be numerical, it can be a date. I will show you in a moment. Then we're going to rescue the important messages that we have access to so that we can deal with those messages. Then we're actually going to do the deed. We're actually going to delete all of our emails or move them into an archive so that we have a fairly empty inbox that we can look at and feel that we've made some terrific progress, which we will indeed have done at that point. And then finally, we're going to make a plan and a promise to each other that we will never again get in this situation. A big part of my webinar today, I'm sorry to tell you, is going to be how you avoid this situation in the future. Actually declaring email bankruptcy isn't that big a challenge. It's not that difficult indeed. But avoiding it in the future, that's where the real work is going to come in. So let's begin by setting a date. And I'm going to have one caveat right now, which is no two of us will approach this process in the exact same way. Based on the tools that we have, the capabilities of different email clients, we might use some slightly different techniques, and our own personal needs, wants, desires, and how our business flow works. So we're all going to craft our own system, but I'm going to teach you the basic tenets today as we go through this. And for me, the first tenet is, how far back do I want to take responsibility for? Is it a date thing or is it a number thing? So if you've got an inbox like mine, I have 50 messages, room for 50 messages in my inbox. I might say I'm willing to take 200 messages, go back through the first 4 screens or 200 messages and pull all of the important emails from that period of time. Or you might set a date. Now, this is great because we are the very end of January when we're recording this originally. So maybe you say anything that happened before January 1st, 2020 is dead to me. It's going in the archives. Now, I will point out that even though we're going to be declaring bankruptcy and getting rid of all of this email, it doesn't mean that it's gone forever. If there's something really important in there, if there's a ticking time bomb in there, it might still go off and you can still gain access to it through search. So if we just archive all of our messages or store them in a folder where they're out of sight and not stressing us, but we might need them and we can find them through search, that is absolutely fine. You don't necessarily have to actually delete all of your old emails, but we do have to set a time frame of what we're willing to go through and visually scan and pick. So make it 4 screens, make it January 1st, pick a time frame, and then we go to the next step, which is once you've picked a time frame, you want to go through and rescue the important messages from within that time frame. Now, this is probably the most time-consuming part of going through email bankruptcy is actually going through and either in Google, I'm in Gmail, I might star all of the messages or move them into a folder. Or maybe you do this on the weekend. Maybe you wait until this weekend and you take 4 hours on Saturday morning or 4 hours on Sunday morning and you go through the messages and you just answer every message that you can and you deal with every message that you can for that 4 hours or for that time period up to the date or for that number of screens, and you get control of those messages and you deal with it. And you get on top of the responsibilities that you have in your inbox. So the most temporal, the most current messages you deal with. So you pick whatever technique is going to work for you and you save those messages, or even better yet, you deal with those messages. Once you've done that, you next have to decide on an archiving mechanism. What am I going to do with all of the messages when I get them out of my inbox? Where are they going to live? Now, you might say, you might create a folder that says pre-2020 email archive and just move all of your email into there. Now, if you use Gmail, you can just archive it all into the Gmail archive or whatever archiving system you use. The key is to get the email messages out of your inbox and preferably not delete them. So either move them into a folder or move them into a full-on archive, a standard archive. And as you go through that process, as you're preparing for that process and going through selecting all of your important internal messages, you can be kind of sowing the seeds for success already. So for example, if you get a variety of different messages from a single client or from a single individual. Now, here's an example where I get a lot of emails from Agora Pulse. Now, these are automatically generated messages, but as I'm cleaning out my inbox, I might select these messages, but just by going select all and finding all of the similar messages, I can then get all of the messages from an important client or an important project, and I can store those separately in some other folder or manage those documents in another way. So you can go through and you can find all of your billables, all of your emails from important clients just by doing a couple of searches and moving those important messages into a place where they are demarked slightly differently, if that's something that's important to you. So using the in Gmail, finding the find similar messages function. Now, if you're in Outlook or some other tools, you can do the same sort of sorts based on the columns, based on the who the email is from or the subject matter of the email. Those email clients will allow you to sort based on the columns. That's one of the shortcomings of Gmail, is it doesn't do a great job of sorting visually within the inbox, but it does have very powerful find, search, and replace functionality. So the ability to be able to find the important messages and then demark them into a location, that's an important step as you go along the way. Once you've done all that process, though, and you've decided on the archive location where everything's going to live, be it in a couple of multiple folders where you have projects or where you've got one massive email archive, you are ready to just do it, to do the Nike thing. I should have the swoosh there. Press the damn button. Archive all of those messages. Have the ones that you've demarked as important that you're going to be dealing with separate, but everything earlier than that or older than that, move into that archive. And maybe already you will already have achieved inbox zero. Maybe there'll be white space at the bottom of your messages. I suspect not. I suspect once you pull out all the important messages, you're going to have 50 or 60 or 100 messages that you're going to want to deal with. But you've got a far more manageable inbox already than the hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of messages that currently live in your inbox. So that is now a huge step along the way. Now, find the time to deal with those messages and clean out that inbox as best you can and catch up within your inbox. And this is, as I say, this is probably the most time-consuming part. With the weekend coming up, maybe, as I say, just pick some time on the weekend. Super Bowl Sunday. Pick everything leading up to the Super Bowl and say, I'm going to spend 6 hours cleaning up my email, then I'm going to reward myself by watching the game. Do something like that. Once you've done that, and you have white space at the bottom of your inbox, the amount of stress that you experience each day and in the future should dramatically decrease, and your productivity should increase. Not only are you going to be more attentive to the tasks that are at hand, but you waste far less time. You're going to actually save yourself a lot of time because you're not looking through email, because we often will scroll back and forth through our email, visually scanning to make sure we're not missing something. That's a huge time vampire. That won't be an issue anymore. But now we need to consider that it's time for us to turn a new page. We don't ever want to be in this situation again. And how do we do that? Well, fortunately, it's very simple. The rules for maintaining inbox zero are simple, but they require discipline and they require a real commitment on your side. So let me take you through the easiest and the most complex part of inbox zero, which is how do you actually attain it and maintain it. And that all happens through one simple rule. And it's so simple, but it's so powerful. Handle it once. If every time you open an email message, you do one of these 5 things with it, you will have then dealt with the email and you will never experience email overload again. And you will experience a massive boost in your own productivity and a corresponding drop in stress. It's a win-win-win situation. So here are the 5 and only 5 things you can do. And you might want to write this down on a Post-it note to start. The first thing you can do is answer it. The best thing to do with an email that there's a responsibility coming in, if you can answer it, is answer it. Now, a lot of productivity experts tell you if you can answer it within 2 minutes, do it in 2 minutes. If not, schedule it for the future and do it in the future. I don't buy that. I don't like to put a clock on it. If you can answer it now, answer it now. Get it out of the way, get it done. And depending on what your time pressure is, you might have to wait a few hours to do it, but get it done. That's number 1. Answer it. Number 2 is save or archive it. If it's something that you just have to read, you don't need to know about, but you want to have access to obviously in the future, where you can archive it, move it into an archive or save it into a folder. Don't close it and leave it in your inbox where it starts to fill things up and reminds you on an ongoing basis and eventually starts to create stress. Move it out of the inbox once you have acknowledged it. The biggest key to this process of handle it once is you have to look at the close box in an email as a disgusting thing to do. You never want to close an email and leave it in your inbox. You always want to move the ball downfield and do an action with every email. So just closing it, that's not appropriate. Save it, move it, archive it. Great. Answer it. Great. Delete it. Best yet. Just delete it. If it's something that you're never going to need again, if you've read it, don't leave it in your inbox cluttering things up. Clean up after yourself. Delete it. Throw it in the trash. The next 2 are the more complicated ones and the kind of more sophisticated ones that we will often have to do, especially when we're part of a team. And the next is delegated. So if you have an email come in and it's something that one of your team members or somebody else should deal with, you should delegate it. Send it to them with the responsibility. But it's a good idea to have a system in place that you can follow up on the fact that you've delegated it to somebody else, that they actually do the task that you've assigned to them. So using a tool like a Boomerang, or we use Mixmax, that will tell you if people have opened the email and if they take an action on it, or if not, it returns to your inbox and becomes your responsibility again, is a great technique to put in place. We've got lots of videos on this. We've talked about it in the past, but delegating an email and having some sort of an accounting system that tells you that it's been dealt with, crucial. And you might do that just procedurally, saying, copy me on this when you deal with it. Let me know that it's done. The last one is the most complex, and that's defer it. Because occasionally an email comes in that you just don't have the wherewithal to deal with right now. You're waiting for more information. You can't answer this question until something else happens. You're waiting to find out about a date or a location, or somebody's supposed to send you some pricing or availability. And so the customer or the person that's asking the question, you don't have the answer for. Now, you don't want to just close that email message and leave it in your inbox, which then starts to fill things up and create stress. No. You want to defer it. And again, using a tool like a Boomerang or a Mixmax, or there's tools within Outlook that do it, a variety of different tools that will take your message and say, remind me of this in 3 days, in 2 days, in 24 hours, in a week. And what will happen is it will go out, it'll leave your inbox, which suits our purposes for inbox zero, but then it'll return as a fresh message at the time when you say that it's time for it to come back in. So then you can deal with it at that point. So you've taken action on it, you've deferred it, but you've deferred it with a purpose. You know when it's going to come back because you'll have the answer at that point. You're not just deferring it because you're just being lazy. If you can get to the point of doing one of these 5 things on every email, I don't know if I will give you a better piece of advice if you take every webinar Wednesday I do for the rest of the year. If you master this one technique, I have done you a solid and you will have changed your productivity for all time. Make this a habit. Make the X button on an email forbidden territory. See if you can do it. Challenge yourself and prove to yourself that you do it, and you will reap the rewards for years to come. Those are the processes that you need to go through. Now, that's not the end of it, but that's most of it. Once that's done, then on a daily basis, once you're kind of into this habit, on a daily basis, you'll come in and you'll deal with your email. You might set up techniques where you just deal with your email twice a day. You might, everybody's got their own system that they will deal with as far as managing their communication flow. But you should leave the office every day or turn off your computer with space at the bottom of your email inbox that gives you comfort that there's nothing lurking there that you need to worry about. And I think you will recognize the drop in stress and the increase in your productivity as a result. But you can still improve things as we go along. And the biggest way that you can improve things is, first of all, starting to unsubscribe from messages that you don't need. All of us receive newsletters and messages that we never open, or we very seldom open, but we have to deal with. Either we have to move it out of the archive, or it's there and we have to scan past it as we're looking for other things. So I recommend that you just get into a habit of, when you see those messages, if you know that they're not messages that you're ever going to read, unsubscribe. We used to teach a technique here at Dottotech to use a recommended tool like unroll.me, which takes all of your messages and puts them into a digest. So you just get one email with all of your newsletters in it. We've moved away from that product, or I have, because of privacy concerns. I didn't recognize their business model when we first recommended it, and it seemed like a very cool product, and it did save the amount of email in our inbox, and it did seem to serve a purpose, but at what cost we now have to ask. And the privacy cost, I think, is just a little bit too steep for this service that they offer. So I have been disentangling myself from enroll.me. I recommend you do the same, and just manually, as you get a new email message, go through and unsubscribe, or create a filter that moves it into a read later folder or an archive folder that you can go in if you want to take a look at information from those people from time to time. Because quite often it's seasonal. You want to look at email marketing messages when you're really concerned with upping your email marketing game, but the rest of the time they're just cluttering up your inbox. So you might still want to subscribe to their newsletters because there's good information, but move them into a read later or a reference folder so that they don't clutter up your inbox. And you can do that by setting filters. We've shown you how in the past. We have lots of videos on YouTube. It's a fairly simple process on all tools to create some effective filters. But take control of that situation yourself. Don't use automated services. Do it yourself. Unsubscribe, even if you have to go to a social network and change your notification settings so you're not getting the email. But slowly over time, reduce the amount of email coming in. Be very judicious about what newsletters you subscribe to. Of course, stay subscribed to Dottotech because you take action on it by subscribing for Webinar Wednesday on a regular basis. But most of the others can probably go, or a lot of the others can probably go, and perhaps we can as well. Bottom line is, only receive email that you want to, and don't be lazy. Spend an extra few clicks, find the unsubscribe, and unsubscribe from the newsletters that you aren't going to use. If you do these things, you will change your outlook on work. No pun intended on email clients. But you will no longer have as much stress. You will be far more productive. You will be a better role model for your colleagues. You'll be more attentive, and there's just no negatives to this process. It takes a commitment to the beginning. There's a little bit of fear in the first steps of actually declaring that bankruptcy and moving those email messages over. Then there's a thrill of victory and a little bit of euphoria from that. But then it comes down to hard work and discipline to make sure you never get in this situation again. Let us strive for that. And now I know that there are going to be a ton of suggestions, a ton of questions. Let's get to the Q&A. There we go. Lots and lots and lots of good comments and questions going on. We had a huge group. We had 425 people or so in the room, which is a lot for us. That's good.
It's good.
That was excellent content and so many good questions and so many good ideas. We've got 21 questions marked, and I'm sure we'll have more. A lot of you asked questions that I didn't type in answers for because I want to be able to elaborate here in the Q&A coming up. So that is all coming up, but thank you for that. Before we go on, I just do want to make sure that you folks know that there will be a replay of this sent out tomorrow morning with all of the links and all of the resources that we have. So that will be available to you. That replay is available for 48 hours. So if you have a friend who also suffers from email overload and you think that what we taught here is valuable today, then I encourage you to forward that email to them and share this message with them. As well, April shared the link to our 3 steps to inbox zero, which is a far more it allows you to go through, and we teach you a technique of going through and finding all of your old emails kind of as you go through. It's a lot more work, certainly if you're in really bad case of email overload. It's a lot of work, but I go into a great amount of detail on the 5 steps of avoiding email overload, those 5 things. And that is, I can't tell you how valuable that, and I'm not like the big listicle guy where you always have to have these lists and these numbers, but those 5 things, knowing that you only have 5 choices, and write them down just to start out, make a Post-it note and just write it down and stick it on the side of your monitor for the first couple of weeks so that you remember, it becomes top of mind, the 5 things that you can do with an email. And then if you can get yourself disciplined to the point of doing that, it's almost like getting into an exercise regimen or something else. It's a little bit of pain when you do it because you go, oh, I don't want to make a decision on this. I really just want to close this email and worry about it later. But if you get over that hump, the benefits will cascade. You will recognize the benefits. Now, I should also mention at this point here that once again, that if you found this training valuable, and I think a lot of you did, then perhaps you want to consider helping us out and supporting us through Patreon. As I mentioned off the top, this channel is supported through the generosity of our community at Patreon. If you drop by our page at patreon.com/Dottotech, you'll get a listing of all of the different perks that are included in supporting Dottotech, and there's too many for me to mention now. But this alone, there's 117 of these sorts of tutorial webinars available to you for you to go back and learn. And as well, our commitment to almost every month or almost every week delivering a brand new webinar. I think we average about between 38 and 40 webinars of these a year, because we always take a little bit of time off for Christmas and for holidays and for summer holidays and that sort of stuff. But we do a lot of these sort of tutorials, and that is all supported through the generosity of our patrons. So to all of the patrons that support us so faithfully, thank you so much. We appreciate your support. And anybody else that's considering, take a look. It's worth supporting Dottotech, and we all appreciate it big time. All right. I think that's it. Next week, we're going to be talking small business, online business, and how our entire business model works. We'll be talking about the crowdfunding part of the business so you can see how all of the different pieces fit. And that now we should just jump in and we can start to answer questions, right, April? We should. Let's do it. I'm ready.
We can. All right. So our friend Whitman is asking, how can I automatically redirect a specific email sender email to a special folder via Outlook?
In Outlook, in all of the email clients, there are filters. So typically speaking, what will happen is you'll select the email, and I'm not sure the exact process in Outlook, but there'll be a drop-down menu, or if you right-click on it, it'll say filter messages like this or create an email filter. And then you can choose which criteria, whether it's the subject line or the sender, and then you can set a set of rules up. You can forward it, you can automatically delete it, you can send it to a specific folder, you can archive it, you can do all sorts of things with all of those sorts of management functions with that email. So every email client does that. You just have to discover how to do it in your own particular client.
I actually put a link in the chat on how to do it in Outlook.
Perfect. It's a
rules
tools menu. There we go. Thank you, Julie, as well.
Barry is asking, if email is older than a month or 2, should I just delete it and dump all of them?
Well, I would archive it rather than delete it. But yeah, that's what I said off the top, is set a time frame. And for me, it's logical to say, you know what, January 1st of this year, everything older than that is going in the archive and we're not going to deal with. Or sometimes people do by a number. You know, a lot of our email clients will give us 50 emails per page, go back 4 pages, but pick a defined period of time that you're going to try and catch up on your email within, and then archive everything else. Somebody said that, people, if it's important, people will get back to you. Indeed, they will, but it's still nice to have it saved so that you can get to it if you need it in the future.
All right, and actually the next question, Cheryl was asking how to archive in Apple Mail. I put a link in the chat for you.
Good stuff.
What happened to the subtitles, Steve, in your video? Yeah.
In which video?
I don't know. That was the video that you just did. I think sometimes you have some different animations.
Well, nope. We don't usually subtitle the videos here. We do on our channel, on our YouTube channel we do, but we don't do them for Webinar Wednesday.
And Sam is just kind of saying and asking at the same time, probably just to feel better, if one simply doesn't have enough time to answer all the emails.
Well, you can create an auto reply that says, I don't have time to answer all the emails, so my apologies. You could do that. That is one way to do it. Really, that's your own business processes, is figuring out, is it clients that you're not getting back to? Is it people that are asking you for favors? Is it coworkers? I mean, there's a lot of problems. We talked about this mainly from an entrepreneurial perspective, but within team environments, there's often really bad email culture where people are copying you on emails and nested emails and finding the individual part of the message. It can be a nightmare. And so if you are in a corporate environment where you have a negative email culture, you should bring that to your management's attention, and they should do something about that. That's a reason that a lot of really efficient companies don't use email for internal communication. Yeah. We don't. We use Slack. And so using a communication manager like Slack is a far better idea and far more efficient than using email for internal communications.
All right. Sherry's asking, is there a good method of saving a secure message? I need to keep the info and be able to search on my email, but they auto-delete and don't show the content. Any advice?
Well, with important emails, personally, I use Evernote. I store everything that should be saved. For example, I've got in Evernote, I've got all of, anytime I receive a receipt or an invoice, I don't save it in my email, I save it in Evernote. And so I use Evernote for archiving and storing all of the important information. Everything else just gets stored in the archives within the email client. So consider that. Consider exporting it into another application, and Evernote would be perfect for that.
All right, Alvin is saying, how do you find out the size limit of an email, and what is the limit for Gmail and Outlook?
I'm pretty sure you could just do a search to determine that. There's a utility that you can plug in for Gmail called Find Big Mail, which will find all of your large attachments, the ones that are taking up a lot of storage space, and identify them separately. So that might be a help. But other than that, I'm not too sure about any other specifics.
All right. Trace is asking, any tips for systemizing the forwarding of emails? I'm usually on an iPhone and clients email me, so need an iOS option.
So there's a lot of really nice iOS mail apps, and some of them you will set up separately for swiping right or left, so you can have different options. As far as forwarding email, if it always went to the same location, you might be able to set up some sort of a rule. But I imagine it's going to be a fairly manual process where you have to go into each email and then actually select forward if you were going to be doing it all in iOS. But I would check out, and Mike Vardy just did a review of some of the different iOS apps. I know that he's on top of some of the different email apps. But I would look, and unfortunately there's probably 6 viable iOS clients that people can use for email, which are all good ideas. But I can't speak specifically as to which one is going to be best for which application.
Office 365 does that on the iOS. I have it, and it helps you to put stuff in folders. It's actually, the mobile app's great.
Excellent.
When I don't have 168,000 in my inbox.
Yes.
Jen is asking, if you use Maelstrom, can you view emails by groups, and is it easy to delete them or archive them, or you can use them there? Oh, I think it's more of a statement on
so
subscribe.
there's a couple of email services that go through and do a lot of, say, what Gmail does as far as classifying your email for you and helping you along the way. And Maelstrom is one of those applications, and the other is, I've lost the name right now, and I know it pretty well. I've used it.
Sanebox.
Sanebox is the other. I didn't like SaneBox. I didn't like how it took over and it pretty much shut me out of it basically takes over your entire inbox and you have to work within its environment. And so I found that a little claustrophobic. But it does, if you do like it, it does a great job. The problem is it's a big commitment because it goes through your whole inbox and it classifies everything and then it's all kind of locked in there and it's tough to disentangle yourself from a SaneBox if you're not careful. So those are the issues, but they are highly thought of, and some of our people here are having great success. By the way, while you queue up the next question, I'm just checking out here. And hello, Marty. Welcome aboard as one of our newest patrons. Welcome aboard.
Thanks,
and also we have Samuel joining us as well as a patron. So thank you both for stepping up to the table and helping out support Dottotech. We appreciate your support.
All right. Barry's asking, do archived emails still clog up your computer?
Well, they shouldn't clog up your computer per se, and actually none of this email should really clog up your computer. With the amount of storage we have and how big the emails are, that's not an issue. Now, they will take up your Google Drive space. So some people are concerned about the fact that when they're storing in all of their messages in Google Drive, that it's slowly filling up their drive space. So at some point, you're going to have to make a decision if you want to keep all of these emails in archive, if you want to pay for extra Google Drive storage space, which is fairly inexpensive and is one solution, or you might choose to take all of your emails and package them up and archive them and export them, but they won't be searchable anymore. So the best thing to do is at some point is to probably purchase a little bit of extra storage space on Google Drive for your email messages. Now, I've been using Google Drive for a long time, and I think I'm at about 56% of my storage. So you've got a lot of space in there. You can also go back through those archives, and you can, if you sort based on sender and you take a lot of the kind of the garbagey social network type stuff out, you could strip a lot of space out, but that would be a fairly manual process. The other thing to do, by the way, total life hack, is keep your Google Gmail account, but I shouldn't say this, open another Gmail account, which gives you fresh storage, fresh 10 gigabytes of storage, and then leave your archive in that, and then forward your new emails to the new one, and then deal with it that way. And then you've got fresh storage. But you just have to remember which. I guess you could almost do it by creating a new Gmail address every year. Don't tell the people at Alphabet I suggested that. It's a little bit of a nasty way of doing things, but you could conceivably overcome storage limitations. But I don't think storage should be a problem. By the way, another patron. Wow, we're just rocking with the patrons. Gary, thank you so much. We appreciate you being on board. You guys will all get messages from me soon.
Okay, so I have lots. CC Green is saying, I have lots of email with information I'm interested in reading, health, tech, etc. follow-up. So emails are put into separate folders in Gmail. Is it suggested to get rid of all of that as well?
It's up to you. I mean, if it's getting in the way, typically speaking, if you're using, say, Gmail, the only email that I consider to be email overload is your inbox, is your main inbox. Your promotions tab and your other tabs don't classify as email overload because your important messages don't go in there. So promotions and updates and those sorts of things and notifications, those you can have as many emails as you want in there, and it's not going to affect you, I don't think. And typically speaking, people just bulk delete those all the times. It's in your primary inbox that we're most concerned.
Okay. Let's see. Did you give up on Zoho, or it's a little bit too complicated, right?
No, Zoho Mail is great. I like Zoho, and I'm a big fan of Zoho. We're actually still talking to Zoho about doing some stuff ongoing with them. But if you're starting out with your first, if you aren't already in an email client and you're looking for a good free web-based email client or one that's low cost that you can build on, Zoho is a great option.
Is it easy to set up a auto reply?
Easy, simple. We've got lots of videos on it, and each client does it slightly differently. But you can set that up. Typically, you can set it up either in the settings. In Gmail, for instance, you go into Gmail settings, and there in your main menu, you can set up auto replies.
Dee is asking, is there a product or tool that can help my inbox be more like a ticketing system? I want to be able to make notes to myself on the message so I know I've looked at it, but I'm waiting on something before I can respond. And she uses Outlook.
Oh, in Outlook, I'm not too sure. Somebody else might be able to suggest that. I can tell you right now in Gmail that Mixmax will do that, allow you to make notes on things and create those sorts of things. So you're looking for a CRM type product. I think maybe a Street might do it, but again, that's probably Gmail. But I would maybe somebody will suggest, I don't have a product, but I'm sure there are ones that will do it in Outlook for sure.
Somebody just made a comment. Unroll sounds from
me, yeah.
Yep, sounds like it's complicated and possibly painful.
Unrolls.me, we've got an old video on it. I actually, after I was preparing for this, I did delete my Unroll.me account. I went in and I very quickly unsubscribed from every email that was in it. Because what it does is it creates a digest of all of your emails, of all your newsletters, and then sends you one email with a listing of all of them in it rather than getting 10 or 15 emails or however many you've got. So I went in to manually unsubscribe from them all, and then I just deleted my account. And they whined a little bit, but I think it was all done. It was fairly quick and painless.
All right. What do you use for Safari?
I use Gmail, so I use it in Chrome, but you could use it in Safari as well. If you're in Safari, Apple Mail might be the best solution for you if you really like the Apple ecosystem.
All right. What happens when emails are archived, and how do you access them in Gmail?
You just search. They're available to you always in search.
Mike is saying, okay, so this is not a question actually.
Boomerang comment as well, just to make sure, because there was something I wanted to comment on. So keep going though.
Oh, Boomerang and or Mixmac available for Google Mail, and how?
They're both in Gmail. They're both Gmail clients. Yeah.
Have you used Trello before?
Yeah, Trello is a task app, not necessarily an email app, but we've used Trello and talked about it a lot in the past. It's a great personal task and project manager. We personally use Asana. We find it a little bit more robust and has a little more upward mobility, but Trello is a great product.
All right. Let's see. Can we forward important emails to Evernote?
Yes. Well, with the premium version, you certainly can. I'm not sure. You can do it if it's in webmail. There's a couple of ways. If you have the premium version, you can forward it because you have an email address in Evernote, so you can forward directly to it. But regardless, if you are in a browser-based email system like using Gmail, you can use the Evernote web clipper to clip emails into the correct folder and tag them. That's a very elegant way of doing it.
All right. Let's see. All right. Where is the separate archive folder to be kept for retaining important stuff? In Outlook on the left side column?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
just somewhere you can find it. So yeah, just if you're creating a folder, an archive folder, yeah, just set it up as it depends how you have your layout. This is where it's going to live, but it's probably in that left side where you've got all of the different folders.
All right. How do you save rescued emails?
How do I save? Oh, that's right at the beginning. So saving rescued emails, you star them, you move them into a folder. That's going to be your own technique and what's going to work best for you. But it's just identifying those emails that you're going to address right away. And maybe you don't even save them, but you just address them before you delete all of the emails from the inbox.
All right. Question from Brad. I'd really like to use just Gmail as a client. I have both personal Gmail addresses and G Suite addresses, but I feel forced to use another client, Airmail 3, because Gmail doesn't seem to gather external email from other domains very well. Any experience with this? And yes, I've tried the pop import in the settings tab.
I have no trouble with it. We have Pop Email. We have our classic email service for the Dottotech account, and then we use Gmail as well. And I have no trouble integrating both of them into the Gmail inbox. So I don't know why you're having a problem, but I would check my settings. It should work for you. And if you like using Gmail, there's no reason not to.
Why and how do some of my emails go to archive on my phone and some delete by sliding left? Most that say archive, I want gone.
I'm not too sure what you're saying there. You can quite often program the swipe ability on your email client to say swipe left for delete, swipe right for archive. So you can set that up yourself. But if you're archiving, if you're in Gmail and using the Gmail app, it should send it to the Gmail archive without any issue.
What is the best way to declutter your folders? Jeff Dennis is asking, other than he needs to prioritize, but
I don't know. I mean, if you have the ability, if you're in Outlook, One of the things I like about Outlook is the ability to be able to sort based on the columns so that you can sort and get an alphabetical listing of all the email addresses. That might help you. That doesn't work in Gmail. So in Gmail, once it's in a folder, it's in a folder. I don't look at it again unless I need it.
All right. Betsy's asking, Gmail mobile awkward to use for me. You said you were planning to move from Gmail to what mail provider?
I actually didn't say I was planning to move from Gmail. I actually don't plan to move from Gmail because I find it so convenient. But I don't know why you find it awkward. The mobile Gmail client is pretty good, and if you want, you can use a different client. You can test a different client and point your Gmail to it. So there should be. You might never find it to be a comfortable environment because you might just not be comfortable with mobile email. But from my perspective, the current version of the Gmail client is pretty good.
Brad has a kind of a continuation to his question. Thank you for your response to my question, Steve. The accounts that you import using POP, are they other G Suite accounts or something else? G Suite works fine for me, just trouble from other POP servers.
No, they are other POP accounts. They're not G Suite accounts. They're regular POP accounts. They're from dototech.com. They're from our server and our own email server on our server, and they work fine. And and have for years.
Matt's asking, great webinar, thank you. What's the best way to defer emails in Outlook?
I don't know what. Oh, you can use Boomerang for Outlook. Outlook is available for Boomerang. Boomerang is available for Outlook, so that's an option. So just find something that will remove it from your inbox and then return it when you need it. And there are, if you do a search on deferring email, I'm sure you'll find it. Boomerang will do it.
Tammy's asking, does anyone else have the issue with Gmail messages showing as sent via mobile, Android, but not actually being sent out or showing up via computer? It appears to be intermittent, but never happens on the computer.
Oh, that's an interesting problem. No, I haven't heard of that, but that's when I would. Here, let me drop a link in. This is the Google product forum. So go there and go to the go to Android Gmail and post that problem there. So it's the forums. That's the Google support forum. You can never get good support from Google. That's where you go to get good support from Google.
All right. Our friend Rico is saying, hold on, let me put it as a question because the chat's starting to move again. So I have that problem with Apple Mail. So I think he's referring to the Gmail mobile. When I add a new Gmail account, I only have an option to archive and not delete. There is some setting that I do eventually find to change that option to delete, but can never remember how to do it.
It's one of those things.
Apple Mail is kind of a PETA, I feel like, but
I'm not a big fan of Apple Mail.
Yeah. Betsy is asking, Gmail mobile awkward to use for me. You said this was actually, I'm sorry. Yeah. All right. Now we're in the chat here. Just pulling up to see if there's any more questions. If I can get back there. All right. Let's see.
Cheryl was asking, if I delete an archive or archive on my Mac, will it delete an archive in Gmail? Yes, it should.
Okay.
Find big mail no longer exists. I did not see that, Jerry. Thank you. And it tells how long I've been in the industry. I keep pulling up all these old apps that aren't even around anymore.
Larry's asking, what are your thoughts about Yes Mail?
I haven't got any thoughts on it.
Is there any way to archive a folder in Gmail in step 1? Oh, you guys are killing me right now. You're coming up with like 10 questions all at once. So I'm trying to get there.
Is there any way to archive a folder in step 1? In one step? Oh, I don't know. I actually don't know. Try. Right click on it. Always right click. Try that.
When all else fails.
That's right. Or open it up and then select them all and then just click archive.
Okay, what if I want to delete 5,000 emails in one go? Can I group them, or do I have to suffer through individual deletion? Thanks, pal.
At the top of if you're in Gmail, at the top of the screen is select all, and it'll tell you how many messages you selected. So you can bulk select everything there. And the same sort of thing is available in most email clients. So you have to look for the select all icon.
Hey, buddy. Let's see. If I delete archive on my Mac, will it delete archive in Gmail? Yeah.
I believe so.
So
Yeah.
you already answered that.
Yep. You
Yeah.
said that. Go lay down. It's okay. We'll go in a bit.
Is there an easy way to tell Gmail that an email source is spam and the other way around too? I have some
Yeah.
emails that keep going to spam.
You could just mark it as spam. And if you mark it as spam, then Gmail knows it's spam and it'll also recognize it as spam for others. And this reminds me of a question. Somebody commented they were lamenting the fact that they often unsubscribe from when I went through the whole Unroll Me. And we had a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth of individuals who now have to manually unsubscribe from all of the email lists that they subscribe to. So woe is you. You did it. You brought this upon yourself. But if you unsubscribe from a list and it still emails you, here's the process. Farley, go sit down. We'll go in a minute. Go lay down. I know I'm excited about it too. Yes, he's very excited. Go lay down. If you unsubscribe and they do not unsubscribe you, first of all, file a complaint. So say this was so file a complaint that you didn't, that this is spam. Secondly, if it's still coming in, create a filter to send it directly to your trash. So you just say, take messages like this. So when one comes in, you right click on it or you click on it and you create a filter on it, just like I was showing in that little bit of a demo that I did, and say, what should I do with all these emails? Send it directly to this trash, skip the inbox, and you'll never see it. It'll just go into your trash and be thrown out with the trash. But first of all, complain. Make sure that you file and register a complaint, because we don't need people who continue to spam after they've been unsubscribed from.
Yes, there is a can spam law for that.
Yeah.
I lost all my contacts in autofill. How can I recover them?
If you lost all your, depends what client, but it should, that's an operating system issue for the most part, like at least as far as Gmail with Google Contacts, etc. What are you doing? Okay. The sun came out. It's been raining all day. The sun came out and he's woken up. Look what he's given me. He wants his Kong. He wants me to fill it full of cookies. Wait. Sorry. So yeah, I don't know if there's an easy way to reconnect or not, Diane. I'm sorry, but it should connect through your contacts.
Gail was asking about storage in Yahoo Mail. My internet provider provides the server storage. There doesn't seem to be an upper limit for storage I use.
I don't know about Yahoo Mail. Sabrina's asking, complain where to whom? If you mark something as spam, then that registers as a complaint. And you should also be able to, in the bottom of an email, there should be a thing, complain. There should be, because I know we've got it in the bottom of ours. If people want to unsubscribe from us because they feel that we spam them, they can click on that as well, and they can mark that as an issue. So there's usually 2 or 3 places you can mark it. Right within the client and within the email, you should be able to do it as well.
Sometimes I respond to them too, and that usually gets.
I think often people accidentally hit that. I mean,
Yeah,
every day we have 40,000 addresses on our mail list, and every time we send out an email, we get 1 or 2 people that complain that we're spamming them. And we don't think we're spamming because we think everybody's opted in on our list. But there's going to be the odd time that people have forgotten or something like that. Often I think people accidentally click that as well, because it's the way that Infusionsoft put it together is it's very easy to click on that instead of just unsubscribe.
Right. So Elisa's saying my contact syncing is driving me nuts. Seem to all override each other. Would love to hear any suggestions on that. Have an iPhone, iCloud, Gmail, and Yahoo.
That's a webinar Wednesday on its own of dealing with contacts and syncing your contacts. Here's the problem with it, and where the issue is you're in a circle of madness. You have your phone. Let's say you've got for argument's sake, let's say you've got a Samsung phone. Farley, leave us alone. They have email questions. I know you have needs, but we will get to you. Isn't it funny how his Kong looks an awful lot like my mic? Let's say you have a Samsung phone. And so Samsung has contacts. And then you've got Gmail contacts. Well, which one is the master list? You can actually set the 2 lists to sync with each other, and it's the same on the iPhone, because every time anybody texts you, it automatically saves it into contacts. But if you use Gmail or Google Contacts, then how do you get that information there? So you have to set up some sort of a master list at the beginning and then all of the others leverage off that. And unfortunately, there's no really easy way to do it. It's almost a trial and error thing, but you have to go into your account settings and you have to choose what your contact list is. Typically speaking, the problem is coming from your phone. It's your phone syncing to everything else as opposed to your computer's contact list. I don't know if that helps you answer the question, knowing where the problem lies and what causes it, but that's where that happens.
All right. Let's see. There was a question that I want to answer. We're a little over 5, just to let you know. But Bree was saying, I've looked at many CRMs, including Zoho. Is there a video on how to use Gmail or Apple Mail, which has email, contact, calendar to sort and make email into a CRM? The thing I hate about all the CRMs I've looked at is the time to set it up. So using what I use now, Apple Mail is the easiest way. Contacts and iCal are separate apps, so we'll have to use Gmail or Zoho. What's the easiest CRM to set up? I don't think there's a such thing as an easy CRM to set up if you set it up the right way. That's my 2 cents.
And CRM covers a wide spectrum of applications. I consider Mixmax to be a CRM because it manages those relationships, but it's a one-on-one. We use, of course, Infusionsoft, which manages 40,000 people. So it's really setting up your own system. And if you need one-on-one sales with individuals, here's a place to look.
Somebody just said 17 Hats is pretty easy to set up.
Okay, I believe that. But you know who else has a CRM? Is the big guys that do inbound.
HubSpot. They have a free CRM.
They've got a free CRM. Take a look at that.
Yeah, just be prepared. They will reach out to you and market to you heavily.
Of course they will. We're past the top of the hour in case anybody has to go. We'll continue answering questions here for a few more minutes. But if any of you have to go now, we have passed the top of the hour. Email will go out to you tomorrow morning with this replay. Please share it with your friends. All of our new patrons, thank you so much for supporting us here. All of our existing patrons, thank you. And join us next week when we're going to keep an eye on your email, because we're going to be talking about we're going to be opening the curtains and showing you how a online business like Dottotech works. So that's going to be that. So let's get back to the questions. For everybody that has to go now, have fun storming the castle. For the rest of you, let's keep going.
All right. So Janice asked if you could come live with her husband and her and do it for them.
No.
John is asking, is there a good way to sync Outlook contacts between a desktop and a laptop?
It should just sync. It should be based on your account. If you're using 365 or Microsoft through the cloud, it should just sync. You shouldn't have an issue. You shouldn't have a difference.
And
make sure you're signed in with the same account.
Jenna's asking that you do a webinar on syncing contacts.
Yes, I would like to. I'm afraid to, because it's really poking the bear, isn't it? Because there are so many.
Poking the bear? What does that mean?
It means you're biting off more than you can chew.
I have never heard that.
Okay,
poking the bear. I've heard biting off more than you can chew.
Poking a bear, that's a bad idea, because you're waking it up and you're telling it that you're dealing with. So here's the issue with that, and I'm interested in doing one, but there's so many permutations, and because of the way the different phones work and how many different contact managers there are, that it can be really scary because of how all of the different syncs work. So I'm a little reluctant, because I think I know how to get it working in my setup, but beyond that, I'm guessing. And, I have to kind of work my way through each situation. So we'll think about how we can do that better, but I'm not sure.
So at dinner tonight, I'm going to share with my boys. I'm going to come out and I'm going to be like, yeah, don't be going poking the bear, and see their reaction to that. I've never heard that.
Okay. It's not that funny, but
it is funny. It's pretty funny. I live with 2 boy teenagers. I have to have some sense of humor these days.
Okay. Fair point.
Bree, having contact problems. One day they are also doubled, so some are singles. So that's which list and where do I delete?
That's the problem. Is you got to go back. You got to clean out one list and make that the master list. But I think I did it 2 or 3 times before I got it to work. And it's so frustrating when you open up that list and there's 2 of everybody. Oh my! And it's not 2 of everybody. It's just 2 of lots of people. And sometimes I can remember at one point I think I had my mail list. My contact was so buggered up because I was going from Windows to Mac to iPhone, and I also had a BlackBerry at the time, and they were all sharing contact managers, and I had 6 and 8 contacts of the same person, and it was often somebody I didn't even like. So it was brutal.
It was toying with you.
Yes.
All right. So let's see. We have Christina saying, I like the folder tab aspect of Gmail, but Gmail is not my main email account and I use Apple Mail. Is there any email program that works on a similar system to Gmail? I've gone away from Maelstrom because it had some issues with search, but my inbox keeps clogging up.
You know, I mean, if I quite like Zoho Mail. It's a very clean and it feels very much like Outlook. If you liked living in Outlook before, it doesn't have the Gmail, the organic feel of Gmail. It's more structured like Outlook. So I quite like it. And you can't go wrong with Microsoft's mail apps. You know, Microsoft's their free mail, Microsoft Mail, and their online mail, and their 365, the free stuff there. It's awfully good. Microsoft Mail is a good option.
All right. I think that's it.
I feel like we're done, and Farley definitely feels like we're done, don't you, buddy? He's going, Steve, it's sunny out. It hasn't been sunny out in days. Can we go for a walk? I think we're going to go for a walk. I think my future, the next 10 or 15 minutes of my time is going to be spent going for a walk, or half an hour. Okay, we are wrapped. Right. Guys, thanks so much. Everybody, thank you. April, thank you very much for this. This was an excellent webinar. I'm sure that we helped. And you know, as I say, if we've helped you, that's great. But pass it on. Let other people know the answers. And join us next week when we start talking about online business. February, we're going to be concentrating on online business stuff here at Autotech. So prepare yourself for that. We look forward to and any questions that you send us, we'll reply as best we can. April, that's it.
That's it. Woo! All right. Thanks, guys. It was so great. All wonderful questions. And I'm going to go poke the bear. No, I'm kidding. I don't understand.
Till next time, folks. Have fun storming the castle.